Everyone's talking about Russia's war losses, but what if the numbers you're hearing don't tell the whole story? New, truly catastrophic revelations are emerging, and they're not about the simple casualty counts you're probably imagining. Prepare to have your entire understanding of this conflict's human cost completely upended. We've all seen the headlines. Tens of thousands of Russian soldiers killed, many more wounded, and still the numbers keep rising. Some estimates whisper it could be over 500,000 dead or injured since the war began. The word catastrophic gets thrown around like it can capture that scale. But what if even that isn't enough? What if those staggering figures are only the surface layer of something far darker? Because here's the truth few want to confront. The real cost of this war isn't just measured in body bags. It's measured in what those losses take with them. The young men who never come home aren't just soldiers. They're sons, husbands, and fathers. They're the workforce that was supposed to power the economy, the generation that would have built Russia's future. And while the world focuses on tanks lost and cities destroyed, another, quieter disaster is unfolding inside Russia itself. Behind every battlefield, death lies a ripple effect. Economic, demographic, and social, spreading through the nation like shockwaves. Entire communities are being hollowed out. Small towns in Siberia and across the Urals have seen so many men vanish that the local schools, factories, and farms are struggling to function. The state tries to paper over it with promises, medals, and propaganda, but the cracks are showing. Reports of conscripts being rushed to the front with barely any training, of hospitals overflowing, of mass graves in remote regions. They tell a story far bigger than battlefield losses. Russia isn't just losing troops, it's losing time. It's losing stability. It's losing the very fabric of its future. And the deeper you look, the more you realize this wound isn't healing. It's spreading. Because the true catastrophe isn't happening on the front lines anymore. It's unfolding inside Russia, in its homes, its economy, its schools, its people. The war is remaking the country from within, quietly, relentlessly, in ways that will echo for generations. But here's the chilling question. What happens when a nation's future generation simply disappears? The men being sent to fight, or fleeing to avoid it, aren't retirees or older veterans. They're the lifeblood of Russia's tomorrow, young, working-age men in their 20s and 30s. Many are fathers, students, engineers, truck drivers, welders, programmers. And in a country already struggling with one of the fastest aging populations on Earth, their loss hits like a hammer blow. Russia was already facing a demographic crisis before the war. Birth rates were falling fast, and the population was shrinking by hundreds of thousands each year. Now, that slow decline has turned into freefall. With so many men gone, killed, injured, or hiding from mobilization, fewer families are being formed, fewer children are being born, and the gap between the old and the young keeps widening. In small villages across Russia, it's becoming a haunting pattern. Streets full of mothers and grandmothers, but no sons left to help or carry on the family line. Schools are merging because there aren't enough students. Hospitals in rural areas have entire wards closed, not from lack of funding, but from lack of people. And then there's the silent exodus, the brain drain. Hundreds of thousands of educated young Russians have packed their bags since the first wave of mobilization. They've flown to Armenia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Turkey, anywhere that won't hand them a rifle and send them to the front. These aren't deserters in the traditional sense. They're the thinkers, the dreamers, the builders, the kind of people who invent, innovate, and push a country forward. But now they're gone. Working for foreign companies, starting new lives, paying taxes elsewhere. Each one that leaves takes a small piece of Russia's future with them. Its knowledge, its potential, its hope. So the real loss isn't just counted in casualties, it's in absence, in the empty classrooms, the shuttered businesses, the quiet playgrounds. It's in the women left behind, asking who's going to build the future when so many of their generation are gone. And as the country bleeds out its best and brightest, another question emerges, one that's even harder to answer. So what happens when a country that's already losing its people begins losing its pulse? Its economy. At first, Moscow insisted the sanctions were nothing. We've survived worse, officials boasted. The ruble is strong, our industries are adapting. But behind the patriotic slogans, a quieter truth was taking shape, one that doesn't explode like a missile, but corrodes like rust. Factories once humming with activity now sit half idle. Short on foreign parts that used to come from Germany, Japan, or the US, engineers are forced to reverse engineer decades-old technology, scraping together replacements from whatever they can find. Civilian industries, aviation, car manufacturing, even medicine, are cannibalizing old equipment to stay afloat. Russia's isolation is more than just financial, it's technological. Without access to modern microchips, advanced machinery, or Western software, the country's innovation pipeline has all but frozen. The war didn't just drain its workforce, it cut its connection to the future. And the longer the conflict drags on, the more resources are sucked into the war machine. Every ruble spent on a missile is a ruble not spent fixing a road, building a hospital, or modernizing power grids. Schools are crumbling. Railways are aging. Scientists and entrepreneurs are leaving, unable to do their work in a closed-off economy. This is the slow, invisible kind of destruction, what economists call opportunity cost. It's not about what Russia is losing today. It's about what it will never get to build tomorrow. The factories that will never reopen, the research that will never be completed, the dreams that will never be funded. And still, the government insists it's fine, that the economy is resilient, that life is returning to normal. But beneath the surface, people know the truth. Prices are rising. Imported goods are disappearing. Ordinary Russians are tightening their belts while a small elite grows richer off military contracts. It's a quiet kind of suffocation, one that doesn't make the news but seeps into everyday life. And yet, even this economic decay might not be the most dangerous loss Russia faces. Because what happens to a society when the people no longer trust what they're being told? When they start looking at their leaders, their neighbors, even their own future, and see only doubt. When a nation's economy starts to crumble, its people eventually feel it. Not just in their wallets, but in their hearts. And that's exactly what's happening inside Russia right now. The cracks aren't just in factories or budgets anymore. They're in people's minds. For many, the world they thought they knew is shifting beneath their feet. Prices go up, jobs disappear, friends vanish to the front, yet the TV keeps saying everything's fine. That disconnect between what's seen and what's said is poisoning trust. Families whisper at dinner tables, afraid to speak too loudly. Neighbors stop asking questions. Fear becomes routine. The government tightens its grip, pushing the idea that unity equals survival. But unity built on silence is fragile. It's like a glass wall, clear on the surface, ready to shatter underneath pressure. And for young Russians growing up in this reality, the message is confusing. They're told to be proud, but they see a future that feels smaller, dimmer, more uncertain. Many are choosing to leave, to disconnect entirely. Those who stay, stay quiet. Meanwhile, on the world stage, Russia stands increasingly alone. Once a player in global trade and diplomacy, it's now treated like a pariah, a nation whose word, technology, and culture are being quietly erased from international spaces. The loss isn't just material, it's psychological. It's a fading of identity, of belonging. And all of this, the fear, the isolation, the fatigue, leads to one final, haunting question. What happens to a country when it's not just losing wars or wealth, but losing itself? But losing. So now we come to the heart of it. The truth hiding beneath all the numbers, slogans, and speeches. Russia's real catastrophe isn't just the soldiers lost in the mud of the battlefield. It's the slow fading of a nation's future. Because when you piece it all together, the missing generation of young men, the shrinking economy, the drained talent, the crumbling trust, you start to see the full picture. This isn't just a war of territory. It's a war that's devouring Russia from the inside out. Every day the conflict drags on, the country slips a little further behind. In technology, in education, in global influence. Its brightest minds are gone. Its industries are starved. Its people are growing weary of promises that never come true. And what's left is a kind of quiet exhaustion, a nation fighting to project strength, even as its foundations weaken beneath it. You can't bomb your way to progress. You can't rebuild a future on fear. And yet, that's the path Russia is walking, a future where potential turns to dust, and victories on the map come at the cost of generations undone. The real, catastrophic losses aren't measured in soldiers, tanks, or missiles. They're measured in tomorrows, the ones that will never come, the dreams that will never be lived, the generations that will inherit a country smaller, older, and more isolated than before. And as this slow unraveling continues, one question lingers, haunting, unanswered, and impossible to ignore. When the guns finally fall silent, what kind of Russia will be left to hear the echo? In the end, wars aren't just fought on battlefields. They're fought in the hearts of nations, in classrooms that go empty, in factories that go dark, in families that never heal. Russia's catastrophic losses aren't just about what's been destroyed, but about what's been lost forever. The futures never built, the voices never heard, the brilliance that slipped away into silence. And while the world counts the fallen, something even greater is vanishing: a nation's sense of direction, purpose, and possibility. The true casualty of this war may not be measured in numbers at all, but in what can never be regained. A future that might have been. Thanks for making it this far. It means you like what we do here at Eurobulletin. We will appreciate if you took 5 seconds to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on your views regarding the topic. See you tomorrow for another video.